Have you ever wondered why, in your darkest moments, the world suddenly feels so quiet? Why the people you thought would be there vanish? Why the calls don't come, the hands don't reach out, the voices fall silent? It's not because you're unworthy. It's not because you don't matter. It's because no one is your friend in the way you think. Not truly. And that truth, as cold as it feels, is the beginning of your greatest power. Think about it. Everyone you know is carrying their own hidden battles. They smile, they laugh, they talk about support, but inside they are trying to survive. People can only give you what they have, and most of them barely have enough strength for themselves. So when you break, when you stumble, when your world feels like it's collapsing, they may offer sympathy, but they can't carry you. No one can carry you. And deep down, you already know this. It hurts because we grow up believing that friendship means rescue, that loyalty means someone else will fight our storms. But storms don't share. They choose you alone. And if you wait for someone to fight your battles, you'll drown waiting. The truth is brutal, but it is also liberating. Because the moment you realize no one is your friend in the way you expect, you stop waiting. You stop depending. You stop looking outward for answers that only live within. This isn't about bitterness. This isn't about mistrust. It's about awakening. It's about standing in front of a mirror and finally saying, if no one comes, I will still rise. That shift is everything. That realization is the first step to freedom. Because if you are no one's priority, then you are free to make yourself your priority. If you cannot lean on anyone fully, then you learn to strengthen your own legs, your own mind, your own will. And when you do, you become unstoppable. Most people live their entire lives waiting for someone else to validate them, to approve them, to make them feel worthy. They wait for applause, for reassurance, for someone to say, I believe in you. But what happens if that never comes? What happens if the silence stays? Do you stop? Do you quit? Do you shrink into nothing? Or do you decide that your belief in yourself is enough? This video, this moment right now is not meant to make you feel abandoned. It is meant to open your eyes to the truth. You are not weak because people step away. You are not broken because help doesn't arrive. You are stronger than you think, and life has been waiting for you to see that. You don't need an army of friends. You don't need a crowd behind you. You need one person. You, and the day you choose yourself without hesitation is the day the world begins to notice a different version of you. One that commands respect, not pity. Stay with me because by the end of this, you will no longer feel like a victim of neglect. You will see the gift hidden in this harsh reality. You will feel the fire of independence, the clarity of self-belief, and the strength that comes when you stop waiting for anyone else to walk your path. What begins as a truth that stings will transform into the power that saves you. No one is your friend, and that's exactly why you are about to become unstoppable. The reason people do not show up for you the way you imagine is simple. They are consumed by their own survival. Every person you know is wrestling with doubts, fears, responsibilities, and hidden pain you may never see. They care in moments, but their energy is pulled inward. They are thinking about their bills, their future, their insecurities, their dreams. And when they look at you, it is not with cruelty. It is with the limits of a mind too full of its own battles. This is why waiting for someone to rescue you is like waiting for the rain and the drought. You can stand under the sky desperate for drops to fall, but the sky is not thinking about you. It is not ignoring you. It simply moves on its own terms. People are the same. Their kindness is real, but it is unpredictable, inconsistent, and never guaranteed. And if your strength depends on their presence, your life will always feel fragile, unsteady, and disappointing. The truth is that people remember you most when you rise, not when you stumble. They applaud when you succeed. They celebrate when you shine. But in your quiet hours of struggle, the world goes silent. This is not because you are forgotten. It is because the world rewards results, not suffering. And that realization should ignite something inside you, the understanding that you cannot build your future on the hope of someone else's attention. It is tempting to believe that someone out there is invested in your success as much as you are. But the reality is, no one is thinking about your dreams the way you are. No one feels the urgency in your chest. No one knows the sacrifices you've made, the nights you couldn't sleep, the weight you've carried in silence. Those moments belong only to you, and they are sacred. Stop expecting others to understand what only your soul has lived. Psychology has proven it. People are wired to focus on themselves. Self-interest is not cruelty, it is biology. The human brain constantly scans for threats, rewards, and opportunities for survival. That is why people's support is often fleeting. They return to themselves because that is where their instincts lead them. Once you accept this, you stop personalizing their absence. You stop taking it as rejection. You see it for what it is, human nature. And once you no longer take it personally, you gain freedom. Think of the energy you waste resenting those who didn't show up. Think of the hours you've replayed conversations, the disappointment you've carried, the bitterness you've held in your chest. All of that energy could have been building you. All of that fire could have been fueling your growth. The moment you stop asking why no one stayed is the moment you reclaim your power. Because the answer has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the truth that life does not hand out saviors. It hands out challenges and waits to see who will rise. Let that truth sink in deeply. No one is coming to fight your battles, and that is not a reason to despair. That is the reason to wake up. That is the reason to sharpen your mind, strengthen your heart, and decide that you will not be broken by the silence of others. When you accept that the world is not here to carry you, you discover the raw strength you've had all along. And once you find that strength, nothing, not rejection, not loneliness, not neglect can ever stop you again. The greatest trap you can fall into is believing that someone else's approval will complete you. That one day, the applause of others will silence the doubts in your mind. That if enough people say you are good enough, strong enough, or worthy enough, you will finally feel at peace. But the truth is that peace never arrives through the voices of others. It fades as quickly as it comes, leaving you desperate for the next compliment, the next like, the next nod of validation. And the cycle never ends. This hunger for approval is not your fault. It is built into your psychology. From the time you were a child, your brain was wired to seek praise, to crave recognition, to measure yourself by how others reacted to you. Every smile from a parent, every grade in school, every cheer from the crowd reinforced the idea that your worth comes from outside. But what no one told you is that this habit can destroy you if you never break it. Because as long as your value is borrowed from others, it can be taken from you in an instant. Research shows that the brain releases dopamine when we receive approval, the same chemical linked to addictive behaviors. That is why scrolling through social media, waiting for likes or comments feels so powerful. It is not just attention, it is a hit of chemical reward. But the more you depend on it, the weaker you become. You begin to live for the reaction instead of the reality. You start chasing applause instead of chasing growth. You trade freedom for dependence, and before you realize it, your life is controlled by the opinions of people who may not even remember your name tomorrow. You cannot build strength on borrowed approval. You cannot live a powerful life if your self-belief rises and falls with the voices around you. The moment you give others the power to define you, you give them the power to destroy you. And why would you hand your life to people who are not walking your path, who do not carry your dreams, who will never feel the fire burning in your chest? The pain you feel when people ignore you, dismiss you, or fail to recognize you is real. But that pain is also your teacher. It is showing you that depending on external validation is a trap. It is pushing you toward a higher truth. The only validation that matters is the one you give yourself. The only voice that must say, aside believing you, is your own. And the moment you realize this, you begin to take back control of your life. Stop asking if others see your value. Ask yourself if you see it. Stop waiting for the world to notice your effort. Notice it yourself. Stop craving the applause of a crowd that is too distracted to care, and begin to honor your own growth. Because the day you stop begging for approval is the day you start living with power. Understand this clearly. The silence you fear is not a curse. It is freedom. It is the chance to build yourself without distraction, without noise, without the weight of other people's expectations. It is your chance to break the chains of dependency and rise into a strength that no one can take away. The applause of others fades. The belief you build in yourself never dies. Life has a way of testing you when no one is watching. The challenges that shape you the most are not the ones people cheer you through, but the ones you endure in silence. You will face days when everything feels heavy, when the weight of your choices presses down, when the world seems indifferent to your struggle. Those moments are not accidents. They are the silent exams of life, designed to reveal who you are when comfort is stripped away and no audience remains. When you are alone with your pain, there is no mask left to wear. You cannot pretend. You cannot distract yourself with the noise of approval. In those moments, you meet the rawest version of yourself. That encounter is uncomfortable, sometimes terrifying, but it is where strength is forged, because growth does not happen in applause. It happens in the hidden corners of your life where you wrestle with doubt and decide whether to break or to build. This is why some people crumble while others rise. The difference is not luck. It is not destiny. It is how they respond to the silence of life's tests. Some collapse, waiting for rescue. Others understand that no one can take the exam for them, and they dig into reserves of resilience they never knew existed. The test is not about proving yourself to the world. It is about proving to yourself that you can stand even when the ground feels like it's falling away. Think about this. The strongest people you admire, the ones who inspire you, did not become who they are through comfort or constant support. They became who they are because life cornered them, stripped away their illusions, and demanded a response. History remembers them not because they were surrounded by friends, but because they endured when they were not. That is the test you are taking right now, whether you realize it or not. Every unanswered call, every door that closes, every moment when you feel unseen is part of that test. It is not punishment. It is preparation. Life is asking you, will you crumble in silence or will you rise in it? That question is not asked once. It is asked again and again. Every time you stumble, every time you feel alone, every time you wonder if your effort matters. The answer you give shapes your future. Psychologists call this resilience, the ability to withstand and adapt to stress. But resilience is not built in moments of ease. It is carved into you through the fire of solitude and struggle. Every time you choose to keep going when no one notices, you strengthen that muscle. Every time you stand up without applause, you build an inner foundation that no one can take away. Stop fearing the silence of life's tests. Embrace it. Because while others run from it, you will use it. While others hide, you will grow. The truth is, the silence is not empty. It is full of opportunity. It is the space where your real identity can emerge, free from distraction, free from dependence. The test is hard, but it is also your chance to become unshakable. Remember this, you cannot fail the test of life as long as you refuse to quit. The silence is not proof that you are alone. It is proof that you are being trusted with a battle only you can fight. And when you pass it, when you rise from it, you will carry a strength that no friend, no applause, no external support could ever give you. This is the test, and it was always meant to be yours. Support is often an illusion, a comforting picture painted in our minds, but fragile when reality strikes. People say they will be there forever. They promise loyalty. They speak of unbreakable bonds. But when the storms rise high and the nights grow long, many of those voices fade into silence. Not out of malice, but out of weakness, fear, or simple distraction. And when that silence comes, it can feel like betrayal. It can cut deep, leaving you questioning not only them, but yourself. The truth is that most support is conditional. It thrives when things are light, when the road is smooth, when your victories are easy to celebrate. But the deeper your struggle, the fewer people can walk with you. Some will vanish because your pain makes them uncomfortable. Some will leave because helping you reminds them of their own battles, and some will simply drift away because they were never as invested as you imagined. If you build your strength on the assumption that their support will remain, your foundation will crumble the moment reality exposes that illusion. This is not meant to make you bitter. It is meant to free you. Because once you understand that support is fragile, you stop clinging to it as if it were guaranteed. You stop resenting people when they leave. You begin to see clearly that their presence was a gift, not a promise. And when you release them from the weight of your expectations, you release yourself from disappointment. Psychology teaches us about the power of contrast. We expect people to stand firm, but when they don't, the gap between expectation and reality breeds pain. That gap can consume you if you let it. But if you adjust your expectations, if you see support for what it truly is, temporary, inconsistent, human, you close that gap. Instead of being crushed by disappointment, you become anchored in truth. You stop being surprised when people leave, and you stop collapsing when they fail to carry you. Think of how many times you've replayed the words of someone who let you down, how many nights you've asked why they weren't there, why they didn't fight for you, why they disappeared when you needed them most. That energy drains you, weakens you, distracts you from what matters, your own fight. Imagine what would happen if you took all of that energy and poured it into yourself, into building resilience, into sharpening your focus, into strengthening your spirit. The absence of others could become the very fuel that drives you forward. Do not confuse this with isolation. People can still walk with you, they can still encourage you, but never mistake their presence as permanent. Walk with them, share with them, but keep your core rooted in yourself, because the moment you give someone else responsibility for your survival, you surrender your power. And power, once surrendered, is difficult to reclaim. Understand this deeply. Support is a blessing, but not a foundation. It can help, but it cannot hold. When it disappears, you will either collapse with it or stand because you were never leaning too hard in the first place. Choose to stand. Choose to build your life on strength that does not vanish when people do. Because when you no longer rely on fragile promises, you unlock a kind of freedom that no betrayal can break and no silence can weaken. That freedom is the beginning of real power. Pain will visit you when people vanish, when promises break, when the support you counted on crumbles into dust. At first, it feels like punishment. It feels like proof that you are not enough. But pain is not your enemy. Pain is a messenger. It is life showing you where you are still dependent, where you are still fragile, where you are still giving away your strength. If you ignore it, it lingers. If you run from it, it follows. But if you face it and use it, pain becomes the very fuel that pushes you beyond limits you never thought you could cross. Every wound you've carried, every disappointment that has cut you, can either rot inside you or refine you. The choice is yours. Psychology tells us that stress, when handled correctly, does not break people. It builds resilience. It triggers adaptation. It forces the mind and body to grow stronger, just like muscles tearing under weight and repairing themselves into greater power. What once felt unbearable becomes a new baseline of strength. The very experiences you thought would destroy you become the reason you are unshakable. Think of what pain really does. It strips away illusions. It reveals the truth. It burns out weakness and demands transformation. Without pain, there is no urgency to grow, no push to change, no reason to reach deeper. Pain is the signal that something in you must evolve. And the moment you stop fighting that reality is the moment pain shifts from an enemy into an ally. Many people waste their suffering. They let it harden them into bitterness. They use it as a reason to give up, to shrink, to retreat into fear. But the ones who rise take that same pain and turn it into fire. They refuse to be defined by what broke them. They refuse to let the silence of others or the weight of betrayal end their story. Instead, they build something new from it, something stronger, something that no one can take away. That is the power waiting inside you. Ask yourself, what if the very thing that hurt you most is the thing that could set you free? What if the pain that once crushed you is the same pain that will make you unshakable? The moment you reframe your suffering, you reclaim your power. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of what happened, and you begin to see yourself as the architect of what happens next. That shift changes everything. You don't need to run from pain anymore. You don't need to numb it, hide it, or beg for it to end. You need to face it with the courage to ask, what is this teaching me? How can I use this? How will I grow from this? Every answer you find in that fire becomes a weapon, a tool, a step toward becoming the version of yourself who cannot be broken again. Understand this, pain is not the wall blocking you. Pain is the door. Walk through it, use it, let it carve strength into your bones, clarity into your mind, and fire into your heart. The world may abandon you, people may forget you, but your pain will never leave you empty-handed if you choose to rise with it. What once felt like your curse will become your greatest source of power. Self-reliance is not about shutting the world out. It is about building an inner foundation so strong that nothing can shake it. When the noise of approval fades, when the comfort of support disappears, what remains is you, and that has to be enough. The people you admire, the ones who seem untouchable, are not stronger because life gave them more friends or easier paths. They are stronger because they decided that their survival, their growth, their destiny would never depend on anyone else. History is filled with men and women who stood alone, yet carved their names into time. They were not waiting for encouragement to take the first step. They were not asking permission to pursue their purpose. They understood a truth that few embrace. The moment you stop leaning on others is the moment you begin to discover how powerful you really are. Self-reliance is not about arrogance. It is not about rejecting love or friendship. It is about never confusing them with necessity. When you learn to rely on yourself, something changes in the way you carry yourself. You stop asking if people approve. You stop hesitating when others doubt. You begin to move with a quiet certainty that comes from knowing you will endure, regardless of who stays and who leaves. That certainty is magnetic. People feel it when you walk into a room. They respect it, even if they can't explain why. And the reason is simple. Strength that does not depend on others is rare, and rare strength commands attention. Self-reliance is built through choices. The choice to get up when no one is watching. The choice to pursue growth when no one applauds. The choice to discipline yourself when no one cares if you do. Every time you make that choice, you reinforce the truth that your power lives within you. Journaling your thoughts, making decisions without asking for constant reassurance, pushing yourself when you want to quit. These are not small acts. They are bricks in the fortress of self-reliance. Psychology shows us that autonomy, the ability to act from your own values and direction, is one of the strongest predictors of happiness and resilience. When your actions are aligned with your inner compass, instead of the shifting winds of other people's approval, you live with integrity. That integrity gives you strength when storms come because you are no longer tossed around by every opinion or expectation. You know who you are, and that knowledge is enough to keep you steady. The more you practice self-reliance, the less you fear abandonment, the less you crave constant validation, the less you depend on fragile support that may disappear tomorrow. You begin to experience a freedom most people never taste, the freedom of knowing that even if every voice goes silent, you will not. Even if every hand lets go, you will not fall, because you have built yourself strong enough to stand alone. This is the foundation of unshakable power. Not wealth, not fame, not popularity, self-reliance, the ability to trust yourself, to believe in yourself, to carry yourself when no one else will. Once you have it, you cannot be broken. Once you live it, you cannot be stopped. And when others see it in you, they will no longer pity you or doubt you. They will respect you because you have become something rare, a person who needs nothing but their own strength to rise. There comes a moment when you finally stop chasing the nods, the smiles, the subtle signs of approval that once controlled your every move. That moment is like stepping out of a cage you didn't even realize you were trapped in. Until then, you are always performing. You dress for them. You speak for them. You hide parts of yourself because you fear their judgment, and you exaggerate other parts because you crave their praise. You shape your life around a spotlight that never truly shines the way you hope, but the day you decide their approval is no longer your oxygen, you begin to breathe for the first time. Freedom from approval is not about becoming careless or reckless. It's about becoming authentic. It's about finally understanding that you are not here to be liked. You are here to live, and no one else can define what that life should look like. The instant you release yourself from the burden of trying to please everyone, you gain the energy to actually build something that matters, because chasing approval drains you, but living true to yourself restores you. Psychologists call this shift, moving from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is when you act for rewards, recognition, or applause. Intrinsic motivation is when you act from your own values, passions, and inner drive. Studies show that people driven by intrinsic motivation are not only happier, but also far more resilient. They persist longer, they handle setbacks better, and they create deeper satisfaction in their lives. Why? Because they are no longer working for something fragile and temporary. They are working from a fire that cannot be taken away. Think about how different your life becomes when you stop needing their approval. The fear of rejection loses its power. The sting of criticism fades quickly. The silence of those who once ignored you no longer keeps you awake at night. Instead of asking, do they believe in me? You begin to ask, do I believe in me? That question changes everything, because the answer is always in your control. And when you stop chasing approval, something unexpected happens. People begin to respect you more. They may not always agree with you, but they feel the strength of someone who lives by their own compass. Authenticity carries a weight that cannot be faked. Approval chasing creates dependency, but authenticity creates authority. You no longer look like someone begging for permission. You look like someone who already gave themselves permission, and that presence commands attention. The truth is, most people never reach this freedom. They spend their lives adjusting themselves like actors in a play, waiting for applause that never truly satisfies. Don't let that be your fate. Don't let your years slip away in a performance for an audience that forgets you the moment the curtain falls. Choose instead to live raw, unfiltered, unapologetically. Not because everyone will approve of it, but because it is yours. When you stop chasing approval, you start chasing truth. You start chasing growth. You start chasing the life you were meant to live all along. And once you taste that freedom, you will never trade it for their applause again. Because no amount of clapping hands can compare to the sound of your own soul finally saying, "This is who I am, and it is enough." When you no longer crave approval, you begin to notice a shift in how people treat you. The ones who once overlooked you start paying attention. The ones who dismissed you begin to take you seriously. It is not because you suddenly became different in their eyes. It is because strength is magnetic. When you stand without leaning, when you move without hesitation, when you stop begging for validation, you radiate something the world cannot ignore. Respect does not come from being liked. It comes from being undeniable. Strength attracts. It pulls the right people towards you, not because you chase them, but because they recognize something rare in you. When you no longer depend on others for identity, you invite into your life only those who respect your independence. Weakness attracts users. Desperation attracts manipulation, but strength attracts authenticity. The people who come to you when you are strong are not looking to drain you. They are drawn because your presence reminds them of what they could be. This is the paradox life hides. You do not gain real allies by clinging to people. You gain them by becoming someone who does not need them. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop begging, the moment you stand alone with unshakable conviction, that is when true connections emerge. Not connections built on fear of being alone, but on mutual respect. Not ties that crumble when life gets hard, but bonds forged in truth, where both stand strong without dependency. Psychology calls this the principle of reciprocity, the natural pull we feel to match the energy we are given. When you are desperate, you inspire distance. When you are grounded, you inspire trust. When you carry yourself with strength, others respond with respect. And from that respect, real alliances are born. They are not born from need, they are born from choice. Two whole individuals choosing to walk together, not because they cannot stand alone, but because they are stronger side by side. You will discover that when you are no longer afraid of being alone, you no longer tolerate shallow connections. You stop settling for people who only come around when it is convenient. You stop lowering your standards just to feel accepted. Instead, you begin to draw people who see your strength and honor it, not exploit it. These are the few who add to your journey instead of weighing it down. And their presence feels different. It feels lighter, freer, unforced. Understand this clearly. Real allies do not appear when you are begging for them. They appear when you no longer need them. The moment you find your footing, the moment you embrace your independence, you naturally filter out those who are only around for convenience. What remains are the few who stand beside you, not because you are desperate for them, but because you are powerful enough to walk without them. This is the gift of strength. It not only builds you, it reshapes your world, it purifies your circle, it separates the false from the real, and it leaves you surrounded not by noise, but by authenticity. That is the kind of connection worth having, the kind of loyalty that cannot be bought, the kind of friendship that cannot be broken. And the only way to find it is to first prove to yourself that you never needed it. Loneliness is one of the greatest fears people carry, yet it is also one of the greatest teachers. The moment you stop running from it, you realize it is not an enemy, but a mirror. In loneliness, you hear the thoughts you have been avoiding. In loneliness, you meet the self you have been neglecting. It strips away the distractions, the noise, the shallow comforts, and leaves you face to face with who you really are. That encounter feels uncomfortable at first, but it is the doorway to clarity. Most people drown in loneliness because they mistake it for emptiness. They see it as proof that they are unwanted, unseen, unloved. But loneliness does not mean you lack value. It simply means the world has gone quiet enough for you to listen inward. It is an invitation to build a relationship with yourself that is deeper than any bond you could form with another. When you accept it instead of fearing it, loneliness becomes fertile ground where self-discovery and growth begin. Psychology shows us that solitude can enhance creativity, strengthen self-regulation, and deepen self-awareness. When you step away from constant validation and external noise, your brain reorganizes itself. It processes emotions more clearly. It untangles confusion. It sharpens focus. Loneliness, when embraced, becomes solitude. And solitude is the training ground of the strong. The greatest clarity often comes when the room is silent. when the phone doesn't ring, when no one is around to distract you from the truth waiting inside. The fear of loneliness keeps many trapped in toxic cycles. They cling to shallow connections, empty conversations, meaningless approval, all to avoid sitting alone with themselves. But that avoidance comes with a cost. You cannot build power while running from your own reflection. You cannot discover who you are while drowning in the noise of others. It is only when you face loneliness without fear that you discover it was never loneliness at all. It was an opening to your own strength. Think of how many times you filled the silence with distractions, with people who added nothing, with habits that numbed rather than healed. What if instead you allowed that silence to shape you? What if instead of fearing the empty space, you used it to create? What if the moments that once felt like isolation became the very moments that defined your transformation? The truth is, being alone is not the same as being lonely. Loneliness is the story you tell yourself about what solitude means. Change the story and the feeling changes. See solitude as weakness and it will crush you. See solitude as training and it will build you. The silence that once felt unbearable can become the forge where your discipline is sharpened, where your vision becomes clearer, where your heart grows stronger. Stop fearing the nights when no one calls. Stop fearing the days when no one checks in. They are not curses, they are opportunities. They are the universe giving you space to build what you could never build with constant noise around you. Embrace them. Use them. Because once you master loneliness, it loses its power over you forever. And the person who is no longer afraid of being alone becomes unstoppable because nothing, no rejection, no abandonment, no silence can shake a soul that is at peace with itself. Comfort whispers to you that everything is fine as it is, that you don't need to push harder, that you don't need to change. It seduces you with safety, routine, and familiarity. But comfort is a silent trap. It lulls you into stillness while life passes by, while your potential sleeps. While the fire inside you fades into embers, growth does not happen in comfort. Strength is not born in ease. Every time you choose the soft path, you delay the version of yourself you were meant to become. Discomfort is the birthplace of transformation. It is the edge where you are stretched, where you are challenged, where you are forced to rise higher than before. The pain you feel when you step outside your comfort zone is not punishment. It is proof that you are expanding. Just like muscles tearing and rebuilding stronger, your spirit must face resistance to grow unshakable. Without that resistance, without that pain, you remain stagnant, trapped in cycles of mediocrity. Most people choose comfort because it feels safe, but safety can be the most dangerous prison. It convinces you that you are secure, but in reality, you are decaying. You are avoiding the very challenges that would unlock your strength. You are running from the pressure that would forge your resilience. The mind is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, but if you let that instinct rule you, you surrender your future. Pain is not your enemy, it is your sculptor. It carves away weakness, laziness, and fear until only strength remains. Think about every breakthrough you've ever had in life. Did it come when you were comfortable, or did it come when you were stretched to your limits? Did it come when things were easy, or did it come when you were forced to endure, adapt, and rise? Growth is uncomfortable by design. It is supposed to hurt, because hurt is the signal that you are leaving behind who you were and stepping into who you can become. Psychology explains this through the principle of hormesis. Small doses of stress create adaptation and strength. Just as the body grows stronger under resistance, the mind grows sharper under challenge. Discomfort forces you to engage, to adapt, to overcome. Without it, you grow weaker, more fragile, more dependent on the illusion of ease. With it, you grow anti-fragile, not just able to withstand hardship, but to thrive because of it. Every time you avoid discomfort, you rob yourself of growth. Every time you choose the easy way, you tell yourself you are not ready for more. But every time you lean into the discomfort, every time you embrace the pain, instead of resisting it, you step closer to the warrior you were meant to be. The fire you feel when you are pushed to your edge is the very fire that forges greatness. Stop seeking comfort as if it were your reward. Comfort is not the goal. Growth is. Power is. Transformation is. You are not here to live a life that is easy. You are here to live a life that is meaningful. And meaning is carved in the spaces where comfort ends and courage begins. Step into that space. Embrace the discomfort, because that is where your true self is waiting, And that is where unstoppable strength is born. When you choose to embrace discomfort, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing struggle as punishment and begin to see it as preparation. Every difficult moment becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes a tool. And in that shift, your power grows. The world no longer feels like it is against you. It feels like it is training you. That change in perspective is the difference between people who break under pressure and people who rise because of it. The truth is, pain is not permanent, but the strength it gives you lasts forever. The sleepless nights, the lonely hours, the silent battles that no one else sees, those moments carve resilience into your soul. You cannot fake that kind of strength. You cannot buy it, borrow it, or pretend to have it. It is earned only in the fire of struggle. And once you have it, no one can take it from you. When you face hardship and keep moving, you prove something to yourself that no external validation can ever give you. You prove that you are capable of more than you believe. You prove that your limits were illusions. And each time you break through, your confidence grows. Not the shallow confidence built on praise or recognition, but the deep confidence built on evidence. You know you can endure because you already have. You know you can rise because you already did. That knowledge becomes your armor. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to influence outcomes through your actions. It is one of the strongest predictors of success in any area of life. And the only way to build it is to step into challenges, to take risks, to push through fear and resistance until you have undeniable proof that you are stronger than your circumstances. Every challenge you face becomes another brick in the foundation of unshakable belief. This is why struggle is sacred. It refines you in ways that comfort never could. It teaches patience, persistence, and perspective. It humbles you by showing you that growth requires sacrifice, but it empowers you by revealing that you are capable of paying that price. The more you endure, the less fragile you become. The more you push through, the less fear controls you. Struggle does not weaken you. It strips away weakness until only strength remains. Do not waste your hardships by resenting them. Use them. Let them sharpen you. Let them build in you a kind of power that others cannot understand because they have never faced what you have faced. What once felt unbearable becomes the very proof of your resilience. And with every victory over struggle, your faith in yourself deepens. You will begin to see that the world does not need to be easier for you to thrive. You simply need to grow stronger within it. And the only path to that strength is through the very battles you are tempted to avoid. Every scar you carry, every tear you shed, every failure you survive is evidence that you are still standing. And if you are still standing, you are still capable of rising. Struggle is not your enemy. Struggle is your inheritance, your teacher, your path to becoming unstoppable. Every struggle you survive sharpens your vision. You start to see clearly what really matters and what is just distraction. Hardship has a way of stripping away illusions, showing you the truth about people, about life, about yourself. When you've walked through pain, you no longer waste energy chasing what is shallow. You no longer beg for scraps of validation because you understand that your worth is not something to be handed to you. It is something you prove through endurance. This clarity is power. It frees you from the need to be accepted, the need to be understood, the need to fit in. You begin to recognize that most of what people chase, approval, status, attention, are empty currencies. They do not buy happiness. They do not build strength. They only keep you chained to cycles of dependence. But when you have faced storms alone and walked out stronger, you realize that the only currency that matters is self-respect. And that can only be earned by refusing to quit when everything in you wanted to give up. The mind adapts to what you feed it. Feed it comfort, and it becomes soft. Feed it challenge, and it becomes resilient. Every time you rise from a setback, you wire your brain to believe in your resilience. Every time you silence doubt with action, you reprogram your mind to see possibility instead of limitation. This is neuroplasticity at work, the brain reshaping itself to match your choices. Struggle is not only shaping your character, it is physically rewiring your brain to become stronger, sharper, and more capable. This is why adversity feels so heavy, because it is sculpting you at the deepest levels. It is forcing you to shed the parts of yourself that can't carry weight. It is demanding that you rise into the version of yourself that can handle more than you ever thought possible. Growth is uncomfortable because it requires destruction of the old. The weak beliefs must break. The fragile habits must die. The shallow attachments must fall away. And only then can the stronger version of you emerge. Most people run from this process, but you cannot. If you run, you stay the same. If you hide, you remain fragile. If you cling to comfort, you never find the strength that only comes through transformation. The pain you feel is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to free you. Free you from the limitations you've carried. Free you from the fears that have held you back. Free you from the lies that told you you were not enough. Every scar you carry is a symbol, not of defeat, but of survival. They are reminders that you've already faced battles that could have broken you, but didn't. And if you could survive those, you can survive what is in front of you now more than that. You can grow because of it. You can rise higher because of it. Let the world throw weight on your shoulders. Let life test you. Do not fear the pressure. It is making you unshakable. The very storms you thought would destroy you are the storms building the foundation of your greatness. And when you embrace that truth, you stop resenting the struggle. You start honoring it because you understand that every challenge is proof that life is preparing you to carry more, to become more, to rise into the unstoppable force you were always meant to be. There comes a moment when you realize that waiting for someone to save you is the greatest mistake you can make. No one is coming to pull you out of your darkness. No one is coming to fight your battles for you. No one is coming to carry the weight you've been given. That truth is not meant to break you. It's meant to wake you because the moment you stop waiting for rescue is the moment you unlock the power to rescue yourself. Relying on others for strength only leaves you weaker. It makes you dependent, fragile, vulnerable to disappointment. But relying on yourself builds something different. It builds discipline. It builds trust in your own hands, in your own heart, in your own mind. When you know you can carry yourself through the fire, you stop fearing the flames. When you know you can stand even when everything around you is falling, you stop being shaken by collapse. Self-reliance is not just survival, it is freedom. The human mind craves safety, and safety often disguises itself as dependency. But dependency is a chain. Even when it feels comfortable, it ties your future to the choices of others, leaving you powerless when they fail you. Break that chain, and you regain control. Every act of self-reliance, no matter how small, is a declaration. I am capable. I am enough. I do not need permission to rise. Psychology shows us the power of autonomy, the sense of control over your own life. People with strong autonomy are more motivated, more resilient, and more fulfilled. They do not crumble when others let them down because their foundation is not built on others. It is built on themselves. This is the kind of strength that cannot be stolen, the kind of confidence that does not fade when praise disappears. It is an inner authority, a steady knowing that no matter what happens, you can adapt, endure, and overcome. To build this, you must train yourself to stop leaning on what is fragile. You must stop outsourcing your happiness, your confidence, your stability. Every time you depend on someone else to validate you, you hand them the keys to your worth. Every time you depend on circumstances to align before you act, you hand away your power to act at all. Self-reliance means reclaiming those keys. It means saying, my value does not depend on them. My action does not depend on conditions. My strength does not depend on help that may never come. This is not isolation. This is liberation. Because once you can stand alone, you can choose who stands with you, not out of desperation, but out of strength. You can give freely without fear of loss because you are not empty without them. You can love without clinging because you are whole on your own. Self-reliance makes relationships purer, decisions clearer, and yet your path stronger. Stop waiting. Stop hoping for someone else to carry what is yours to carry. The weight on your shoulders was given to you because you are capable of bearing it. The battle in front of you is yours because you are strong enough to fight it. The destiny ahead of you will not be handed to you. It will be built by your hands, carved by your choices, forged by your will. Stand on your own feet. Trust your own strength. Because once you discover that you are your own rescuer, you become unstoppable. The moment you accept full responsibility for your life, everything changes. Responsibility is not a burden. It is the purest form of power. It means you no longer blame circumstances, no longer blame people, no longer blame luck. It means you stop pointing outward and start looking inward. And in that moment, you reclaim control over everything that once felt uncontrollable. Blame weakens you. It convinces you that your future is in someone else's hands. It convinces you that you are a victim of forces beyond your reach. But responsibility strengthens you. It teaches you that even if you cannot control the storm, you can control your response. Even if you cannot rewrite your past, you can write your future. Even if others failed you, you still have the power to rise. Responsibility is the bridge between suffering and transformation. Psychology confirms this. People who adopt an internal locus of control, believing they shape their outcomes, are more resilient, more driven, and more successful. They do not wait for life to be fair because they know fairness is an illusion. They do not wait for help that may never come because they know they can help themselves. Responsibility creates clarity, and clarity creates direction. Once you take ownership, you no longer wander, you build. It is easy to hand responsibility away. It feels comforting to blame others, to say life is unfair, to say someone else is the reason you are stuck. But comfort does not free you. It chains you to powerlessness. Every time you blame, you hand away your strength. Every time you say it's not my fault, you deny yourself the chance to change. Responsibility is not about fault. It is about ownership. You may not have caused the pain, but you are responsible for what you do with it. You may not have chosen the struggle, but you are responsible for how you rise from it. This shift is not easy, but it is necessary. It requires courage to look at your life and say, this is mine, my choices, my mistakes, my victories, my future. It requires humility to admit that no one else is coming to fix it, and it requires strength to rise even when it feels unfair, even when the weight feels too heavy, even when quitting seems easier. But on the other side of that responsibility lies freedom, freedom from blame, freedom from excuses, freedom from dependence. When you own your life fully, nothing can hold you. Failure becomes feedback, pain becomes fuel, obstacles become stepping stones. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I do with this? That question changes everything because it moves you from helplessness to action. And action, no matter how small, builds momentum. The truth is, life owes you nothing. No one owes you understanding. No one owes you support. No one owes you success, but you owe yourself everything. You owe yourself effort. You owe yourself discipline. You owe yourself the chance to see how far you can go if you stop waiting and start owning. Take responsibility for your life. Not because it is easy, but because it is the only path to freedom. Not because you want to carry blame, but because you want to carry power. Your destiny will not be handed to you. It will be built by you. And it begins the moment you decide everything that happens from here is my responsibility and I will rise because of it.